Okay, so here's an idea on what the pigs have done, forested pigs, just so you kind of get an idea of what they might do on your landscape. We are in Eastern Virginia. It's been a pretty moderate year all the way around, very dry through the summer, hasn't been cold yet. This area right here was the original training pen for when these Berkshires were piglets. They are now grown and back in it, as two of them are headed off to the butcher on Wednesday. So they started out in there in a cattle panel enclosure, learning about electric fence. They're back in the cattle panel enclosure because it is where we are able to sort them easiest and load them into the trailer. Now this area here, that's nice and green. This was an extension of that paddock in which we had a couple of pigs that we picked up that were older pigs, and they were not electric fence trained. They were too large to really be able to do it without potentially injuring them or us. They were really easy on cattle panels, so we were able to move them around a bit on the cattle panels. And then a nice wood chip base in here kept everything looking good. Since they've been gone, all this stuff has shot up. You can see a little bit of greenery popping up through here. It's come and gone. It's had a really nice stand of ryegrass early in the year, and then once it dried off between that and the heat and being shaded and in the pines, it really did die off pretty badly. But the first paddock that the Berkshires went into after leaving the training pen was actually all this area to the left. We use Premier One electric fence, the netting, and we were doing a strand of electrified, just regular metal wire inside of there. So I'm actually on the perimeter. There were pigs within this tree and not without that, outside of that tree. And then you can sort of see this path here going right through there. This was the back edge of the paddock. So no pigs downhill, pigs uphill. Now obviously the leaves are covering up a fair amount, but everything looks pretty good. It was a little scrubbier on the pig side just because it's got the edge, so it was allowing more sunlight in. Now after they moved out of that paddock, they came into this pine paddock here. So basically was a large rectangle going there, going back around and into that greenery down there just a little bit. All this stuff is seed that I've thrown. It is actually coming in a little bit. And you can see, I mean, it's pretty much all pines here. There's a sweet gum or two on the outside, but primarily pine. So it's not great grass growing to begin with. They knocked down a lot of these dead trees, pushed them down a bit more, got really good soil contact with them, so hopefully they'll start to actually rot out a little bit faster. One of the biggest ways you can tell where they were is they like to push stuff up to the fence. And so this little ridge right here of loose soil is how you can tell. Now obviously the fence was still up here. I've left some of these paddocks so that we have options to move them into. But now that there's been a good amount of pine needles falling, leaves falling, you can't even tell they're back here. Got some grasses growing, and try and seed right behind them all the time anyways. as we come into this little clearing, you can see a lot more vegetation coming up. I don't know how well it comes in through the camera. After they left this paddock here, we came down into this area, which is a lot of autumn olives. You can see there is still a stump of one left here. Just rough cut it for now so I could try and get more light in there to get some grasses growing. And they did come up to this line here, and they actually did a pretty big number on all this right here. There's a divot right here. It's hard to see in the camera, but they did some pretty aggressive rooting in this area. And then there wasn't a whole lot of light, and again, really dry, so not much new growth, but there's some here. There's some here. The autumn olives, they actually really love the fruit from that. So I'm torn about removing them. I am primarily removing them just because it's gonna make way for so many better plants and remove the spread of them, since they are a pretty bad invasive. But the way I see it is, you know, a lot of people want to go out there and use all kinds of chemical herbicides on invasives. Why not eat them? Okay, so this paddock has actually been eaten down 3 times now. It had a very nice stand of sorghum in it, and the pigs got into there, ate that down, ate the regrowth, and then they've eaten the regrowth once with this mix here, which is oats, barley, daikon radish, and a few other things. So you can see there's daikon right here, just doing its thing, growing. Big hole right here, very big hole. It's almost knee deep. Is the Burks, they really do like to root. They will root very deep, and if they find something they like, they will go super deep. So that's like here, here, there, right along that edge. This is an area that I'll come in with the tractor and kind of regrade a bit, just because it is a normal area that we are going back and forth on. And then this paddock here, very heavy briar growth all the way around. And you can see here, setting up this fence was no joke. It was not a lot of fun. And I just moved the thing from here, so I threw some new seed. That's why this is as bare as it is. They had one of their shelters over it. And then some of these areas are very heavily compacted and just don't have nearly as nice of the growth as you see right over here. But they did a good number. I'm not looking to necessarily get rid of all the briars right away. Even if there's some briars left, that's not a big deal. However, I am trying to open up future paddock space and easier fence moving, so that in the future they don't have to do as much time clearing. They're able to migrate through the areas and really take care of whatever new forage areas, whatever stuff we're planting, and be super happy little pigs. There's some daikons. They're popping up on here. This is an area that I had already wood chipped, that they had compacted a good bit. And then as we come around the corner, this is an area I have not gotten the chips on yet. And they're old wallow. So that sort of gives you an idea. We had 10 pigs, 4 of them that we'd had long term that we've been migrating through these areas. A lot of newer growth woods. This whole area does appear to have been tilled for years when I look at historic aerial imagery. I don't know. I did find an aerial shot from 1937, and I don't know yet if this area was part of the original farm field or if this is where the woods ended. I gotta kind of do some picture overlay with some newer stuff and some of the landmarks and see if we can't tell. And then this area up here had the turkeys on it for quite a while, so it's pretty compact. In just this back section of the house, we've got bees, pigs, had the turkeys. It's after Thanksgiving, so we've already processed them. And then if you went over the house that way, you get into the field. That is where we're primarily doing grazing animals as well as the chicken tractoring. And we will be bringing some of the grazing animals back here to mow some of this stuff down for us. And they will probably also be going into these paddocks once to get a good munch down while this stuff is still going to regrow before spring. There's a bee box I need to take care of. I'll start pulling up this fencing here soon. And that's sort of a wrap on the whole pig in the woods operation.